What's up? Welcome to Afterthoughts. This is our Recommend a Refute episode where we each discuss a movie or TV show that we watched separately this past week and pitch the rest of us on whether or not we like it and encourage other people to watch it. So with me, as always, John Garcia, Ryan King, and our special guest Parker is back. How's it going, Parker?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for joining.
Happy to have you.
John, do you want to kick us off and tell us what you watched this week?
Sure. So I know in our past episode we talked about D&D and fantasy, and we talked about Marvel movies. I have a superhero movie that's fucking
God damn
wild. It is a pre-contemporary Marvel, I should say. So that tells you it's probably a lot better than, the fucking schlock you're used to. It's a different kind of action. It's a 1993 film called The Heroic Trio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Howard the Duck.
It is. It's very. It's just a little George Lucas indie film.
An evil emperor of the underworld is using his power.
It's unnatural.
To create an army of darkness. The world will belong to me.
He can be beaten. Let's get serious.
Now, 3 extraordinary superheroes must unite in the most fantastic triple threat of all time.
You want it? Come and get it.
Yeah, The Heroic Trio is a movie that stars Anita Mui, who is apparently the Madonna of Hong Kong cinema. I don't know what that means, but it sounds, it's provocative. It gets people going. It's got Michelle Yeoh and it's got Maggie Cheung. And that's really all you need to know is that this is going to be about 3 women who kick ass. And they do it in a way that mixes superheroes and kind of the wuxia films. If you're not familiar with wuxia as a genre, as I understand it, and I have not looked it up yet, but from all the movies I've seen that are qualified as it, it's that kind of floaty, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, fantasy style fighting where everybody's on like wire rigs and they're flying around doing this and that with swords. You cross that with a bunch of superhero stuff and you get the Heroic Trio. It has the sets of a Tim Burton Gothic Batman movie. So like these big scaled kind of like laid out sets and wide shots, and every frame is kind of a painting in this movie. It's really beautiful. The use of empty space with different props and characters placed in it. I remember very visually and viscerally a lot of sequences from it because of that framing. So the cinematography already right off the bat, great. What is it about, John? I hear you ask. Well, it's about, all right, this is going to get fucking weird immediately. So just bear with me on this.
Strap in, folks.
So Anita Mui's character is called Wonder Woman in it. Shout out to DC out there.
No copyright issues there.
Not at all. She's been raised to deliver justice to the town that she is in by some master in the mountains. And at the same time, there's a villain that Michelle Yeoh plays called the Invisible Woman, who has a cloak that makes her invisible. Go figure. Invisible Woman is trying to steal babies from any and all maternity wards to deliver them to a sewer king who apparently is going to name the next emperor of China.
What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Is the sewer king played by Danny DeVito?
It is not. It is not played. Sorry, we didn't get that far in the Tim Burton timeline here. So the sewer king has a lot of like demon powers apparently too. And Maggie Cheung's character is the third in this trio that will eventually become heroic, hence the name. Maggie Cheung wears a bunch of skin-tight leather, rides around on a motorcycle whistling London bridges falling down, and has a fucking double-barrel shotgun that she uses for anything. The first scene we're introduced to her with is there's a bank heist, and they're like, we don't know how to get the hostages out. And she shows up and she's like, I fucking know how to do it for a price. And then she sticks a piece of dynamite in a barrel and rides the barrel into the bank on top of the fucking criminals, shooting them with a goddamn shotgun, whistling London bridges. It's fucking glorious.
And the dynamite does not hurt her.
Not at all. It propels the barrel forward, much like a SpaceX rocket, but it doesn't explode like a SpaceX rocket does.
Wow.
Yeah. So this movie, I saw it at a Weird Wednesday at the Alamo Draft House as part part of the nonprofit I'm part of, Hyperreal Film Club. They were like, hey, can you come take some photos and watch this movie with us? And it's an hour and a half. That's all you need. 90 minutes, folks, for whatever this balls to the wall, insane action piece is. It does have some pacing issues, but it has so much surprise and delight in how much it just fucking throws shit at the wall and sees what sticks. Like, there's a lot of great kung fu fighting in it. There's a lot of great prosthetic and kind of practical effects as well. There's even sort of like a Terminator-esque character that becomes just bones and is walking around doing some wild shit.
Okay.
And it ends in like a mental mind fight that is just communicated through the craziest kind of editing that it's just like really hard flashes. It reminded me of like if Terrence Malick took cocaine.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Heroic Trio is on Criterion Channel. I believe it just had a 4K restoration recently done as part of Janus Films. And it is fantastic usage of 90 minutes. I would highly recommend this movie to anybody out there. It's just a good time. It's not going to make you think deep. It's just going to be fun. And it's going to have a lot of really fun wire work with it and a lot of characters that are just like, yeah, sure, I want to see these people kill each other. Also, one of the only movies I've watched that has a baby death in it. It's just like straight up a baby dies, and it's pretty fucking traumatic. In the middle of the superhero movie,
John
you
loves
just
that kind of shit.
watch that shit go down, and you're like, fuck, they really did that. It took my brain like 5 minutes to catch up with that.
Oh my God.
Until the doctor pronounced the time of death. I was like, oh, fuck. I thought this would
they
make
really,
it. Yeah, they really
that all the
hammer
way
that
through.
shit down that the character is really evil. So I was like, fuck. Yeah, anyways, the Heroic Trio, 1993. Just
Does it
Interesting.
try to be comedy at all? Beyond just like
there's a lot of
okay.
comedy. There's also like a love
other than
story.
the baby death.
Yeah, the baby death, of course, hilarious, as we all know.
played for
That's the
laughs.
comedy, yeah. Dead baby jokes are back, everybody.
Classic bit, classic
Making
bit.
it. Yeah, it has comedy bits in it. It has this kind of goofy 1960s Batman vibe to certain parts of it.
Okay.
It also has a love story that's woven into it and these dramatic pieces that they don't really hit, but they serve as like justification for certain character actions. And I was like, it's fine. I can let that go. Really, a lot of it comes down to the visual aesthetic, super stylistic, just visually drinkable as a movie. You're like, hell yeah, I remember these particular sequences because they're so striking and the lighting was this way and the sets were just massive in the scale that kind of gothic Tim Burton thing that I mentioned. So yeah, I had a great time with it. It's good.
It's called the Heroic Trio. You said Michelle Yeoh starts out as a villain. I assume they like recruit her to the good side and then they fight the Sewer King or something.
Yes, there is an eventual thing where they fight the Sewer King, but it doesn't happen in the way that you would think it would. Also, there's a character who is, I think, either blind or deaf and carries the thing from, there's another Kung Fu film where they have this floating basket that latches onto people and cuts their heads off. He has that
Oh my
weapon.
God, that thing.
Yeah, he just pulls that out in a bank, like in whatever. He
Wow.
like holds up a hospital, holds up a bank, does all this other
He holds up
shit.
a hospital?
Sure, why not?
Do they have like a cash
Yeah, you got a lot
register
of
at
money.
the hospital? Or like where do they keep
Well,
the money?
they're robbing babies, not money.
Oh,
That's our
good
most
point.
precious
Right,
natural resource aside from oil and gas.
Yeah.
Is our youth.
Yeah, it has a lot of weird shit where you're like, that doesn't make sense, but I will allow it because of the way it's done.
Gun to your head, you have to choose Heroic Trio, John Wick 4. Who you got?
Oh, fuck, man. Why are you going to do this to me? Hold on. I really need to think about this.
Oh, God.
Is it the Wuju or is it the Gun Kata?
I got to do Heroic Trio.
Oh,
as Gun
wow.
Kata and
Wow.
over the top as John Wick was, it's 3 hours almost of
Mhm.
Gun
Holy
Kata and whatever
shit.
in John Wick 4. And
But
this
it's
was 90
worth it.
minutes of the condensed version of those kinds of things with wire work. Like, okay, if John Wick had wuxia elements where John Wick floated through certain scenes and did shit, that would be even harder.
Keanu
I would
can't
say,
do that
yeah.
anymore. It'll just be too derivative.
He really can't. He really can't. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, Heroic Trio this time around. As much as I loved John Wick 4. Fuck. It didn't. And I did see John Wick 4 recently. Dixon took me to it. I
Mhm.
should say honorable mention. Dixon, thank you for taking me to the movies. And going to see that one in particular, it had some fucking wild sequences in it that I really appreciated.
It's the only way John goes to the movies is if I ask him several times to go to see a movie.
He has to text me several times, "You're a dick." And when I tell him no, I can't go, before I'm like, the Catholic guilt really catches up and I just gotta at this point. And then, Ryan, honorable mention too. I watched the first season of Reservation Dogs. I did it, everybody, within the first week of my promise that I would watch to half of season 2 by my birthday. I think we might get there, folks. We might even go a little farther.
Don't overcommit yourself here, John.
Exactly. You want to set the bar low, just like Marvel does, and then you can always just occasionally breach. But yeah, so would recommend The Heroic Trio and John Wick 4. Why not? And The Reservation Dogs. Why not? There we go. I piled on to this.
Calm down.
Triple right.
I'm getting greedy here, folks. I'm getting greedy.
Cool. Ryan, what did you watch this week?
Yeah, I mentioned that I went to the movie theater 3 times.
D&D, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, obligated to watch Super Mario Brothers, wanted to watch Dungeons and Dragons, and I told my family a long time ago that they were obligated to watch Suzume.
Hey, got a sec? I'm looking for ruins, specifically a door.
A door, just like he said. Impossible! There's no way!
Why?
You need to close this door, right?
Gates open in lonely places where no human hearts remain. And from those gates,
Suzume?
disaster comes.
Hi there. You're in the way. Goodbye.
Which is the latest movie from Makoto Shinkai, who is trying his best to be the new Miyazaki, since Miyazaki's son is not is not pulling it off.
Burn. Sick burn.
Womp womp here.
I don't think I've seen any Miyazaki Jr. movies.
You haven't seen Tales
And
from
that's
Earthsea?
yeah, that's good.
No.
Yeah.
I'll lend
Oh
you
my God.
copy.
Don't.
No.
Yeah, and then
that's
he can-
fine. That's fine. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, he can follow it up with Earwig, and be half interested, half horrified, and then the movie just ends, and you're fucking confused.
Yeah.
So Makoto Shinkai, if the audience doesn't know, he has a few movies to his name, but Your Name was the first really big hit for him, and then he followed it up with Weathering with You, and then Suzume has been making the worldwide tour, and it didn't come to the States until it had its dub, because it's the way we roll. I did watch the dub version. I do want to go back and watch the subtitle version, but my 10-year-old doesn't always want to put up with subtitles. And in a movie
True
theater, it's even a
American.
little more difficult. Yeah, I'm getting her there. The dub is fine. Like, I actually didn't really have any problems with the dub, so I'm actually like, it's okay to go watch that. I give it a general approval. I still want to watch the subtitle original, just because I always feel like it's better. I have a suspicion that the cat character probably sounds different, and maybe slightly less annoying, just in the way that these things tend to go as dubs. Overall, I give it a recommend, totally, just off the top. I didn't care too much for Weathering with You. I thought it was all right, and the visuals were really good, but I was kind of just okay on that one. I really liked Your Name. Like, I really kind of blew me away at the time. I'd like to go back and watch it again. Suzume falls kind of in that Your Name spot. I think it really was really, really good. I enjoyed it. I think the main character of Suzume is really good. She's really strong and comes through. I think the visuals were really good again. All 3 of those movies have great visuals. This in a theater was awesome. Like, I really did appreciate the scale of it. There's a lot of these scenes with this amorphous blob threatening the city, and then times where we kind of go through the city and see it. So these like wide spaces with so much going on. I really appreciated being able to see that. And just the beauty, kind of similar to a Ghibli movie, of the country, the city. There's a lot here of like abandoned locations is kind of a key part of this movie. And it's a good mix of where you can feel how it was used and how it's kind of been overrun by nature now. That was good to see visually as well. I kind of always appreciate that look. I had no idea what the plot was other than something in a door because I really was not trying to pay attention. I already wanted to go watch it. Basically, the plot is that Suzume is headed to school one day. A weird dude comes walking the other way and asks if there's nearby ruins, specifically a door. And she sends him off to the ruins, but then for whatever reason, her mind just kind of is dragged back. She ends up going back to the ruins instead of going to school. Or I think she ditches school and finds him at this door. Or first she finds the door and she opens it. It's sitting, this is again where this movie is really pretty. The layout of things is really interesting. So this door is like in the middle of, I don't know how to describe it, almost, kind of like a coliseum, a greenhouse or something.
Yeah.
It's all completely gone. And there's just a pool of water in this door, just in the middle of it. And she opens the door and kind of gets a glimpse into another world, tries to step through it. Nothing seems to happen. She picks up a rock that turns into an animal and runs away. And she's kind of confused.
Oh.
She comes back later because she sees this horrible worm thing coming out into the sky that nobody else can see. And at the same time, they have an earthquake warning. She somehow thinks it's all connected because she can see it's coming from the ruins, goes to find the mysterious guy trying to close the door, and that thing is coming out of it. And then he kind of explains, and this is, again, not really ruining anything because it's pretty quick through the beginning of it. He explains that he has to go around and close these doors or otherwise horrible shit happens to Japan. And like earthquakes and tsunamis and things like that. And she apparently fucked it up by picking up the keystone that was protecting this particular door. And so she ends up following him through an adventure through the different locations to close doors. There is some sort of funny hijinks to it as well as getting serious. And it introduces like different characters as we go. And I really kind of appreciated each of the locations she visits. She kind of makes a new connection with the people and the location. And we learn about the locations that have been abandoned that have these doors and the connections to those people. And so the theme all kind of stays, I feel like, really strong throughout it. At the end of the day, it kind of is a romance movie without being super hard on being a romance movie. So it didn't bother my 10-year-old because she really hates romance movies or if people kiss. And so this like towed the line just carefully enough that you knew that the people had fallen in love with each other, but we didn't have to see them kiss or get really too much into it. It was much more about the closing of the doors, I guess. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. I'm going to watch it again subtitled in my own time. I do want to go back and kind of put it next to Your Name and see where I think it falls. Darla kind of was not as big on Your Name, so she said this is actually the better one. But I think they're all good. Honestly, I'd be like, watch Weathering with You as well. This is one of the new studios that's replacing Ghibli, as I don't even know what it's doing anymore. Kind of appears to have given up on things.
Yeah, as Miyazaki curses AI, and that's about all that really happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Ghibli, I think. Yeah.
Keeps retiring and then coming
supposedly
back.
he's making another movie after he's retired 5 or 6 times. I read the book that it was based on. I have my doubts about where that movie is going, so we'll see, because the book was terrible. I can see why he liked it as a kid, but it's not good.
So I saw Suzume also, and I saw it in IMAX, and it looked great in IMAX. I thought it was cool that they actually showed it in IMAX in the US.
Yeah,
and
that's rad.
Yeah, instead of like having Dungeons and Dragons in IMAX for another week, they showed this instead. And I was like, that's cool that they're actually showing something that's like really visually interesting in that larger format. And it seemed like there were actually some scenes that were IMAX format, so that was cool. But I agree with most of what you said. I saw Your Name. I'm not, I don't watch a lot of anime, but I happened to watch Your Name in 2017. It was getting a lot of critical praise, and I watched it and I loved it. It was in my top 10 that year, and I've kept up with the director since then. I actually didn't like Weathering with You. I thought it looked amazing, but everything else kind of sucked. Like the story and the characters were boring, and like the music was so fucking annoying. It just was like grating against my ears the whole time. I was like, I can't with this. Suzume to me was kind of in between. I liked it better than Weathering with You. I thought it was actually probably the least visually interesting of the three, but it's still very visually interesting. Like that's not saying much that it's less beautiful than those two. At the end, like I thought it was a fun story that like you're kind of engaged with it the whole time and following the characters through. But then by the end, I was kind of like, okay, we've done that. I guess that's what we're doing. I feel like Your Name resonated so powerfully on an emotional level that it seems like he's been trying to do that since then with his other movies, and I don't think he's been able to achieve that. I liked Suzume. I thought it was definitely better than Weathering with You. Not quite to the level of Your Name. Kind of like squarely in between those, like good, solid, fun movie that looks great. That's definitely worth checking out.
There is also a trickiness that it does involve the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, and it doesn't like exactly explicitly say that.
I didn't realize that.
The Fukushima
stuff?
I
was gonna say that.
Or like
was that the
just
2011?
This was. I think
this was
Shin
just
Godzilla was based on.
It's not a period piece though, because they're using like it seems to be modern technology and smartphones and stuff. So I don't think it's a period piece.
It's set in the present, but Suzume's mom died in 2011.
Oh,
I see.
And that she moves out of that town because that town is wrecked by the tsunami. So that's where it's like in the background of this movie. So that's one thing where I'm like, sometimes it's the same thing Miyazaki does, which is like, oh, well, now I kind of needed to know what the hell you were talking about to be like, oh, this puts it in perspective. So that's one thing I do think is definitely a miss. The ending, I think, is going to be one of those things. I agree. It's like you like it or you don't. It's a little, you either have to kind of just give up into it and be okay with it, or it's gonna sit like, all right, I guess.
I didn't dislike it. I was just like, okay, that's fine, I guess. But like, it wasn't super satisfying to me. But yeah,
I do agree that Your Name, like to me, it hit the feels. Yeah, Your Name like hits the feels hard at the end of it, and that's where I'm like, I think it succeeds better.
So I've seen Your Name, and I love Your Name. Obviously, Parker, have you seen Your Name?
I haven't seen it.
We love Your Name, don't we, folks?
We love it.
It's the greatest animated film I've seen.
I know anime, folks. It's the best anime. I recommend you and Nikki. If Nikki hasn't seen it, I
don't think she has.
I think it's a good movie to cuddle up and watch.
Well, my cousin texted me about this, and he was like, "You should just go watch Suzume first, definitely while it's still in theaters, just for the experience."
For the experience.
I mean, it's great to go see it on a big screen. Like,
yeah.
Well, I'm just curious because I haven't seen Weathering with You and I haven't seen Suzume. So if it wasn't in theaters and I had an option, which one would you recommend to me that I watch?
So I didn't like Weathering with You.
Yeah,
right?
I know that you didn't. So I figure Suzume would be your pick.
Yeah.
But I was curious.
Yeah, I agree. I think Weathering with You had really interesting visuals, but I honestly can't remember either of the characters' names. I essentially remember the plot, but I didn't find it that interesting.
It was like one of the characters could like change the weather or something.
That makes the name
something about going through gates.
What? Me saying that both of their names are Weathering and You makes Weathering with You.
No, if one of them controls the weather, then it's like a dumb pun. It's just... Weathering with You.
It's like a movie is definitely gonna suck if its villain has like a weather machine.
Like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh wait, that movie's good. Shit.
No, in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the villain is the weather machine.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Okay,
Oh.
The government-made weather machine.
Slightly
that's canon, right? That's canon.
No, he made it himself.
I know it's not.
You were the weather machine all along.
I'm trying to the weather machine was the friends we made along the way.
Cool. Anything else on Suzume before we move on?
No, I'm definitely like, go see it. I absolutely see it in the theaters. I think it's really beautiful. And I do want to always... Probably. I know it's still in theaters.
I don't know if it's still in IMAX, but it's definitely still in theaters. I don't know if it's still in IMAX, but
you've sold me. You've convinced me.
I always try to support something like this because like we need some different things. This is not based on a property. This is not some kind of adaptation. It's something new. It's something that's a different perspective. Like we need things like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Parker, what do you got for us?
All right, so I am coming with a recommendation. I recently just finished up a series on Paramount Plus called
You
Why
pay for
Women
Paramount
Kill.
Plus.
One of my roommate does. So
I see.
it's one of those shared experiences. We all pay for cable together. But Why Women Kill is a 2019 series that came out. It actually aired on, if we remember, CBS All Access.
Oh,
R.I.P.
Brief moment in time when that was a thing.
Yeah, it was like a year-long project.
I think
or
less.
something. Yeah.
So luckily, it's found a new home on Paramount Plus, and they actually made a second season of this. But the first one, it's very episodic. It's one season is a storyline, and it did not get the love that it deserved for sure. Whenever it first aired, it didn't come on television. It just was on CBS All Access, so not many people really knew about it. But just a really great thematically, just solid show.
The meatloaf's delicious. Penny for your thoughts.
I was wondering when you'll die. You could be hit by a bus, or have a stroke, or get stabbed in the chest.
You and Simone have the perfect marriage.
Oh, hardly. I imagine she dreams about stifling me with a pillow or casting me aside like an old shoe.
Oh, honey, you know I'd never throw away a shoe.
I'm not dying anytime soon.
You don't know that.
So the show itself takes place all in a mansion in LA. And it actually takes place in 3 different time periods. So there's an early 60s, a mid 80s, and then a present day timeline that happens. Each with their own casts. Each one revolves around a husband and a wife that lives inside of the house. Obviously somebody dies along the way. And there is, the women that murdered the person that, did that thing or whatever. But it is very much like a mystery along the way. It takes lots of twists and turns, and each episode really has its own like little theme. It has a narrator that's built into every episode. It changes each time. So like in the first one, it introduces the husbands and the wives, and they're kind of the narrators for it. And then the next one, it's like the friends of the person that died. And then it kind of just keeps going on.
Oh, so you get like different perspectives of the death from different people around that person?
So you actually don't get the deaths until the last episode. And it doesn't tell you who's going to die until the last episode. You know who like the women are, because it's always going to be the wives of the 3 different series.
That do the killing.
That do some kind of killing, yeah. And the wife in the 80s is Lucy Liu. She's a top billed actor in the series, and she definitely gets like a really great focal point for the role. A lot of really wonderful lines and very like quick witted comebacks and things like that. And her storyline really like takes a turn that you don't expect at first. But like the entire series is really great. Like it does a really good job of kind of keeping itself tense and keeping the friction up at all times and the suspense built, because you never know who's going to get killed, and you're kind of like guessing along the way, like, oh, it's going to be the shitty husband, but then like the husband kind of gets redeemed in an episode, and then like kind of comes back a little bit, and they introduce new characters along the way, and like the premise around the present day storyline is about the couple having an open marriage, and so they bring a third person in, and that like creates strife and
that always
things
goes
like
well.
that. Yeah, right. And she's coming in because like she has a crazy ex-boyfriend who's like, all over her and who's abusive and like went to prison and stuff. And so like they use that in really fun ways. The first one in the early 60s is about a housewife who is being cheated on by her husband. She kind of like, she's the housewife that has it all, but then you
was
like
the style at the time. Yeah,
exactly. As was the style at the time.
Yes, yeah.
She is, you actually realize, I think probably until like episode 3 or something, you finally realize that they actually had a kid before like they started this story. And so you realize that there's a bit of trauma behind there, and it's just like, yeah, it's very, very well cohesed show with 3 different plot lines going all at the same time. And then the finale is really great. It kind of actually all takes place like they interweave everything, and they kind of like did some like mixed filming with each different set, because they, you know, it's very clear and evident that they had to like film like one period and then change the house, film the next period, and then change the house.
It's the same house?
It's the same house every single time. And then at the end, they actually show like, after the stories have wrapped up, they do this really nice little thing where they kind of like bookend everybody's story by showing the house purchases along the way. So it shows the house purchase from the first story to the second story, and then the house purchase from the second story to the third story.
No one ever asks if anyone died in this house when they buy it.
Oh no, they say it like along the way, and it's kind of this like fun little thing. But
it's got a lot of character.
Yeah. It has a lot of character. Yeah, it is a really great show that I think got overlooked. That has just like it's 10 episodes, very enjoyable ride.
It's only 10 episodes. There's not more of it right now, or
there's a second season.
Okay.
I haven't watched it though. It's episodic, so you only have to watch the first season. That is like when all of those
like
storylines wrap up.
Contained piece.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, anthological, not episodic, not episodic, but anthological.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's cool. I was looking at the IMDb page, and Nick Frost is in it. Is
he the
like
one that
played for laughs, or how's that?
He's the one from Veep,
Shaun
right?
of the Dead. No.
Oh wait,
Nick
Frost is not. I
Is
don't
he in
remember
season
him.
2
He's on the. Oh, maybe he's in season 2.
He might be in season 2 then. Yeah.
The dude from Veep is in it. I was looking.
Yes,
he's the guy who plays Dan.
Dan, yeah, he's one of the characters. He's the husband in the present day storyline.
Oh, okay.
And he plays a really interesting character. He plays a writer for like he sells scripts for movies, and
screenplay writer. Yeah.
He's like one of those like hit or miss screenplay writers where he like doesn't make it big for a few years, and then like sells a really awesome story that does really well, and then like gets addicted to coke, and he's.
And
seems like a little
that's
later that he's an addict.
That's probably the natural progression.
Exactly.
Is he basically just playing his character from Veep? Because that seems.
Whenever he gets like frustrated, whenever he's on coke, you see the Veep just like sliding through him. Yeah. But before that, he's like very mellow and calm.
Let the Veeps flow through you.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. Oh my god.
How does it play with the time periods? Like, does that actually play into the differences, or?
Yeah, it definitely does. So the first time period is definitely, like it deals on like just like, abusive. So one of the neighbors is an extremely abusive husband that like actually breaks his wife's arm, and like gives her black eyes and things like that. But like she's just like very tertiary character. The main character, like the husband has been cheating on her for a long time, but she thinks it's just like this one girl, and she actually befriends the person. In the first episode, she goes to the diner to like confront this woman, and then she like ends up like getting to know her and kind of like going through this whole process, and makes like the entire thing a lot more difficult. The 80s storyline actually revolves right around the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and like the last few episodes really, really punched through on like the stigma that was built around AIDS and just the gay community in total.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it does a really good job of keeping things like slightly on topic for like present day, even though they're out in like these. It does a really great job of showing the woman's perspective, and like you don't notice it along the way at all, but like it is just a very great show at giving women a little bit more of a voice in these like weird relationships,
that empathy and that kind of connection that you can get to the characters, and it can build that relationship with you.
And they have 3 different women that are like 3 different female characters, like the character of the present day is very strong-willed. She's a lawyer. She's actually the breadwinner because of the husband, having these drug problems and not really being able to keep like, his script writing working up, so it does a good job of like playing off of a lot of different subjects around like, feminism and toxic masculinity.
I will say, when you first pitched me on this, we were on the way to a hockey game. You did it in a very fast manner, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like a Monster of the Week kind of affair." Yeah. But now it sounds like there's a lot of layers to it that I do want to peel back that are fascinating to me. Where it almost feels like Hitchcockian in a way, where you know somebody's going to die at the end of it. You know, there's a ticking time bomb underneath the desk, as it were.
Yeah.
But you really don't know how that's going to play out, or what the characters are, who's involved in that, who planted it there, and what it's going to do. So it's fascinating to hear this kind of unravel right before me.
Yeah, it's the classic triple whodunit, you know?
Damn.
Yeah.
Take that, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah. Knives Out ×3.
Very cool.
Cool. Well, I have a recommend for us as well. So this is going to be 4 out of 4 recommends this week.
We did it, everybody.
Good to offset.
We achieved world peace.
Yeah. Good to offset that shit pile Dungeons and Dragons that we talked about earlier this week. I love that movie. But yeah, I watched a 1947 film called Black Narcissus, directed by the British directing duo of Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger.
We may proceed with our plans at Mopu. It will be called St. Faith. You will be the youngest Sister Superior in our order.
No place to put a nunnery, I can tell you that.
I don't think you're ready for it.
Do you notice a change in us since we came here?
I notice a change in you.
I feel that things are not right with you. I remember things before I joined our order.
There's something in the atmosphere that makes everything seem exaggerated.
I think there are only 2 ways of living in this place. Either ignore it or give yourself up to it.
So Powell and Pressburger were, kind of prolific in the 40s through the 60s in England, making a lot of movies that were popular at the time, and then kind of, for some reason, fell out of cultural relevance for a while, and then have been kind of picking back up steam. Martin Scorsese actually has been a big part of bringing their films back into the cultural zeitgeist over the last 20 or 30 years. I've seen 2 of their movies. Red Shoes is a really famous movie of theirs that I liked a lot. And then Black Narcissus is this one that I watched this past week. I felt pretty similarly about both of them, where a lot of the movie, the first 2 acts of the movie feels a little bit slow and a little bit dull. And then it crescendos into a really powerful, emotional final act. And then you kind of thinking back on it, you realize what was building in the first 2 acts that weren't necessarily apparent when you didn't know where it was going. I'm actually interested in rewatching both of these to kind of, I imagine I'd be able to pick up on things that I didn't on the first watch. But Black Narcissus is about a group of nuns who start a school / hospital / general nunnery in the Himalayas in India. Okay. And there is a local general king person there who has this large mansion on this big hill on this cliff outside of this small town, and he used to use it to house all of his women, and for some reason he's not using it for that anymore, and now there are nuns there instead.
Getting up to nunnery.
Yeah. So the nuns move in, and there are pictures on the walls of sexy Indian women and stuff, and they have have to remove those and actually start
put sexy pictures of Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking shredded up on that cross.
What would Jesus lift?
So they're trying to start this convent in this remote area of India, an area where Christianity is not really known, and actually Christianity is not spoken about much in the film. It's clearly underneath what's going on, but the nuns don't really talk about it. They seem to be more focused on just kind of executing their orders from, I think they're Anglican nuns, is from the Church of England, that's telling them what they need to do to set up this place. They're well, we have to teach children, and so we need to get kids to show up here, and we need to, be able to create a hospital to cure people of their illnesses. there's an English man who is kind of the representative of the Indian general who kind of helps them get things set up, and he's the go-between between the nuns and the head of this area in India. And he is, kind of wears short shorts and has his shirt kind of unbuttoned.
Okay.
And, comes around these nuns. And basically the movie is about sexual repression and these nuns dealing with these desires that they have shoved down so far over the years. Some of them have been doing this for decades, some for only a few years. And they are in this convent and just really horny. And there's this, this one guy who kind of keeps coming around and making wry remarks in his short shorts and, kind of creating temptation
with
for
his
them.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
So there's a lot of, kind of slow build in the first couple acts of the movie as you sense the frustration of these nuns kind of maybe not being able to create the environment that they wanted and not getting the, kind of interest from the local community that they expected they would. And, meanwhile, they are, kind of dealing with the temptation of this, brawny, hairy man who keeps coming by.
Stupid, sexy general.
Feels like I'm blessing nothing at all.
But yeah, so, you can kind of imagine, it's a really interesting movie dealing with a lot of issues that, kind of like the church doesn't want to talk about, particularly the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, like having celibacy requirements and, the priests or nuns kind of not really being able to deal with that in a healthy way. You can really see, so Scorsese was really influenced by Powell and Pressburger, and you can see that from this movie. Like I saw a lot of Silence and The Last Temptation of Christ in this movie with the ideas that it was dealing with. Also the Age of Innocence with like sexual repression and, kind of having to put on the air of politeness and, kind of a proper attitude and not, admit that you're dealing with any problems. So I thought it was pretty fascinating to see those ideas and how Scorsese has taken those and used them in his work. It was photographed in Technicolor in 1947, which, was still pretty uncommon at the time. And the cinematographer was Jack Cardiff. He won an Oscar for Best Color Cinematography for the movie. The camera is fairly static and it feels a bit staged, but the lighting is impeccable. And the way they use Technicolor and the lighting coming through like the windows and stuff, Cardiff was really influenced by Jan Vermeer and Rembrandt and kind of looked at cinematography from a painterly aspect. And you can really see that in the movie. Like every shot is just very beautifully set up and it just looks great. It was all shot on a backlot in England and they didn't shoot a second of it in India. But the sets are incredible. It also won the Oscar for Best Production Design. There are these incredible shots where the convent is up on this cliff and it just falls straight off like hundreds or thousands of feet into these forests below. And they show you a shot of there's a bell right on the edge of the cliff and a nun has to come out and ring the bell every so often to mark the time. And there's a shot from above the bell looking down the cliff as the nun is ringing the bell. And it's just a perspective painting. Like the set is built 6 feet off the ground, but you would have no idea because this painting is so well done. And it creates this perspective where it looks like it's dropping off this far. Not all of the paintings work as well as that one. Like there are definitely scenes where you're like, oh yeah, that's a set. But they're all really good. And I was shocked at how well it worked for something that was clearly just shot in a studio backlot and it was all staged. Like they used that to their advantage to create the perfect lighting that they needed in every scene and to kind of be able to micromanage exactly what they wanted to do. So I liked it a lot. I think, I like religious movies and movies about, kind of doubt and the problems that come along with over devotion to religion and things like that. So I liked it a lot. I'm interested to rewatch it and The Red Shoes because I want to kind of see, because I was kind of like a little bit bored for the first 2 acts, and the third act I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. And thinking back, I can see what they were doing and laying the groundwork for that on the way. So I'm interested to go back and revisit it. But liked it a lot. Would definitely recommend people check it out.
That's pretty crazy for 1947.
Yeah.
That's so progressive at the time.
Yeah, and it was a fairly big commercial hit at the time, which I was surprised to hear that something about repressed nuns would be that popular.
And that much sexuality.
Yeah, it's based on a book as well. And around that, kind of in the 30s and 40s, anything that was based on a book tended to be a decent hit.
Right.
Grapes of Wrath or any of those
kind
of things.
Michael Powell said also that he made that movie because he, like, coming out of World War II, all England was just making war movies and people were getting tired of them. And he's like, I need to make something that's not a war movie.
Yep.
And most of the movies that Powell and Pressburger had made up to that point were original scripts. And this was the first one that they did based on other material. And it feels like he's like, I just need to do something completely different than what everybody else is doing right now. And it paid off for him, which a lot of times risks like that don't end up working out. But yeah.
Do you know there's a 2020 version of Black Narcissus?
Oh God, I did not.
It's directed by the cinematographer from Molly's Game.
No.
And Fences, cinematographer for Fences.
Okay.
Who's done a few other things, I guess, too. I was just like looking it up, and
I'm not going to watch that. I'm not going to do it.
It's according to the reviews, it's like a step down from this one, obviously, but it looks, from like the screenshots I've seen, very stylistic, which is kind of interesting to me. So curious if we have a Breathless situation on our hands here. But yeah, that sounds really fascinating. I also, while we were talking about that, I was like, is Lilies of the Field technically also not Black Narcissus, obviously, but some kind of weird like nun exploitation film?
I don't know that movie.
Nunsploitation, yes. Lilies of the Field has it features I just forgot his name and I have it. He was in The Heat of the Night.
Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier, yes.
Poitier,
Sidney Poitier, yes. Sidney Poitier is in Lilies of the Field.
Okay,
and
I gotta pull it up.
my mom fucking loves that movie. It's all about a bunch of nuns who are very stingy, stodgy, like stuffy, and Sidney Poitier comes in with his kind of like gruffness and teaches them how to actually build a community and to kind of thrive and make a palatable, I guess, religious sort of community, which is interesting. I have not watched that movie in a long time.
That sounds like a more optimistic version.
Yeah,
maybe,
that's
of
why
Black
I was
Narcissus.
like, the entire time we were talking about it, I was just like, did somebody see Black Narcissus and go, we could do this with nuns too?
Black Narcissus is very dark. Like it's not a
it sounds like
it's
it.
like I said it reminded me of Silence. It's like about missionaries or emissaries of the church going out to foreign lands and trying to do their thing and it not working, and they'll be like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why did I come out here? So I liked it a lot. I'm really excited to go back and I'll probably try to go back and watch it here in the next couple weeks or so and just kind of see how it builds up. It is very British and their movies are, and it's it's like a lot of, it feels very staged. A lot of actors talking in like perfect British accents, giving monologues and stuff that like, but there is this sensuousness that is like boiling underneath what's going on. And you can see that there. And then it just erupts in the final act of the film in a way that I thought was pretty powerful.
I want to pitch you on a double feature night, 2 double feature nights, if I may.
A 4 feature night?
4 feature. It's not the same night, but like different nights here. I am sensing something that maybe we should watch the Black Narcissus film that was made in 2020.
Nope.
But after we've watched the Jean-Luc Godard 1960 Breathless, and then the other night we watch the Breathless with Richard Gere and the original Black Narcissus.
Okay.
And
we alternate, like we have a good and bad in the next.
Yes, exactly. Just like we did for our spy movies.
Yeah. Okay. I could be down with that.
That would be kind of fun, I feel like.
I actually almost watched Breathless last night to bring it here to be like, oh, you watched the 83 maybe when I watch the
Let me
actual
tell you about how good it is.
1960 Breathless, because I haven't seen that yet, but it's sitting on my shelf. But I was like, I should, like, John's probably going to want to watch that. I
do want to watch that. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but I want to watch Black Narcissus as well, the original, and then figure out what the new one is. I would be way more tantalized to watch the new Black Narcissus if it was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, but that's just me saying
Vinegar Syndrome will put it out in a month or two.
Anyways, yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts tonight before we wrap things up?
No, I think
you joke, but nunsploitation is a thing.
Nunsploitation is, yes, very much.
Are you talking about like bad horror movies that are like about Catholicism?
No, just in general,
like
nunsploitation is a thing, right?
There's a bunch of like Italian and Japanese like nun, and then there's a mix in there of like nun horror, but just general like
anything
like nuns,
general nunnery.
Like it's there somewhere. You'll find it if you look hard enough.
Yeah,
I suppose. Just like caveman exploitation or any of the things you think out there, there's exploitation for it, I swear.
Bruce Lee exploitation. That's my favorite subgenre.
People exploiting Bruce Lee's likeness is amazing to me.
Yes.
Jackie Chan started as a Bruce Lee impersonator.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Wait, Ryan.
Does that mean Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Bruce Lee exploitation?
No, it's not.
Just
Ryan,
one segment of
Ryan, I know you have it on the tip of your tongue. What is that Bruce Lee movie? Tell Parker, please, because I don't think he knows about it.
I don't remember what the name of it is now. I think it's called like The Death of Bruce Lee or something like that.
Yep.
But it involves, this is after Bruce Lee died. They made a movie about him going to hell and the devil being pissed that Bruce Lee is awesome.
Oh my God.
And so the devil contracts like Dracula and I'm trying to remember like 4 or 5 other also
holy shit
not in public domain characters to go fight Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee gets Zorro and Popeye and
holy shit,
like 2 or 3 other I think a masked wrestler.
This is just like
then they go against the other ones. Meanwhile, part of the reason the devil gets so pissed at Bruce Lee is Bruce Lee keeps having sex with all the devil's wives.
No,
which is mostly just an excuse to show tits in the middle of our Bruce Lee exploitation movie.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
And Bruce Lee's
we know
family
what
was
you came
mad
here for.
about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but never came for these directors.
Is this live action?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, this sounds amazing.
Is it Dracula
It's
and
pretty
like
amazing.
all the other Universal monsters?
Is it
that...
Blackula?
No. It was I think it's like just Dracula is the only one that's a monster. It's like Dracula and then like
we don't get the Invisible Man,
and it's like such a weird.
Laurel and
mix
Hardy
of
meet the ghost of Bruce Lee.
And then they get this like A team of super awesome old school heroes of Popeye and
Bela
Zorro.
Lugosi and Ed Wood.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Well,
okay.
What a side tangent. There you go.
An extra
everybody.
That
recommendation.
was
Wait, didn't you watch something else? A follow-up, didn't you have, Dixon, that you...
Oh, I watched Potato Dreams of America
That's
that you recommended a few weeks ago. You let me borrow the Blu-ray, and I watched it this past week, and I liked it a lot. I wasn't quite as enthusiastic on it as you were. I think the stuff in Russia I thought was great, and then when they got to America, I felt like it really fell off a cliff, and it didn't really stick the landing, but I still really enjoyed it and thought it was a really cool personal vision.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us tonight on Afterthoughts. I've been your host, Michael Dixon, and with me tonight is our very special guest.
I'm Parker. Waka waka.
Yeah.
Okay. And as always,
Ryan King, join us next time when we find Marvel movie in another way that we can trick Dixon into it.
That's not this episode. That's not
No.
this episode at all.
But we're going to find one next time.
Oh, okay,
the next
okay.
movie will be...
yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I will quit this podcast.
We'll find out.
If you pull this shit again, Ryan.
We'll find out Creed 3 is actually a...
Oh, no. Don't bring Jonathan Majors into this. Not right now. And John Garcia. Yeah, everybody. Go fucking watch Reservoir Dogs. Go watch Reservation Dogs. Go watch John Wick 4. How many can I squeeze in here before I'm cut off? Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.